Hey there folks, my name is Empty Berry, and welcome to today's episode of Lore to Go, the series where we talk about the story behind games in 5 minutes or less. This episode will be about the Queen of the Awoken, Mara Sov. If you haven't seen my video about the Awoken, I'll link to it down in the description, and I recommend checking it out. This episode will focus on Mara's influence on the Awoken and her part in them leaving the Distributary. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the channel in order to see more videos about characters and events in the Destiny universe. With all that said, let's jump into it. Mara Sov is the current Queen of the Awoken. She is a mysterious and complicated person, who is semi-aligned with the Guardians, though her true allegiance is to the Awoken people and not to the Last City. She is thousands of years old, possesses supernatural abilities, and is a master of secrets and long-term plans. In order to understand Mara in the current story, we first need to understand her origin and her part in the Awoken people's creation. This story begins prior to the collapse, on the ship known as the Yang Liwei. Mara, along with her brother Uldren and their mother Osana, were part of the crew of the ship as it set out with 40,000 passengers to find a new planet for humanity to live on. Mara, who was 19, worked as a technician and was very skilled at finding and fixing problems without the assistance of others. She also loved to go for spacewalks, sometimes going miles off the side of the ship, held only by a small tether. Here, she would take pictures to share with others on the ship, which gained her an almost mystical reputation among the crew. When the darkness entered the Sol system, the crew of the ship took a vote on whether to continue their mission or to turn back and assist humanity on Earth in the coming conflict. The crew voted to continue onward, though Mara believed that they were abandoning their people and wanted to go back. When the fateful battle between the Traveler and the Darkness occurred, and the light and dark collided to create a singularity in space, Mara was off on one of her spacewalks. Understanding that there was no escaping the singularity, she cut her tether to the ship and freely entered the black hole before the rest of the ship was swallowed as well. Having entered the black hole first, Mara came to consciousness before anyone else from the ship. Due to this, she was able to shape the Distributary and create its laws and rules, as well as shaping the nature of the Awoken. Soon after, Alice Lee, the captain of the ship, gained consciousness and falsely believed that she was the first to have awoken. Mara let her believe this to be true, helping to convince her that Alice had been the one to create the world and the Awoken people. From the beginning, Mara knew that the Awoken should not stay in the Distributary. She had seen firsthand the conflict between the light and the dark, and felt a duty to return and see what help they could give to any potential survivors. However, she knew that the majority of the crew had voted to not help humanity prior to becoming awoken, and so she knew that they needed to be convinced and that it would take time. Over thousands of years, Mara maneuvered politically behind the scenes to help convince the Awoken that it was necessary to leave the Distributary. This was no easy feat, considering that they were now immortal and lived in what could only be described as a paradise. Mara helped to create a faction of Awoken known as the Echolystes, who believed that they were obligated to see a resolution to the conflict that caused their creation. She did this indirectly and from the shadows, so no one would know it was her pulling the strings. The Echolystes were one of the main groups involved in the Theodicy War, the first civil war amongst the Awoken. Though many Awoken died, Mara saw it as necessary to make the people uncomfortable enough that they would be willing to leave the Distributary with her. Following the war, the current Queen of the Awoken, Alice Lee, stepped down due to thinking that she was responsible for the suffering and death of her people. She believed this because she thought she created the laws and rules of the Distributary, and therefore could have made it so that there was no suffering. Many years later, Mara would feel comfortable enough to step out of the shadows and become the face of the Echolyst movement, giving them more legitimacy within the eyes of the Awoken population. Mara would do a broadcast to all of the Awoken, speaking of their ancestors on Earth, and explained that she planned to leave the Distributary and asking for them to come with her. Tens of thousands of Awoken agreed, though many more decided to stay behind. Before leaving, Mara went to meet with Alice due to her lingering guilt about lying over who was the first Awoken. Mara explained that she created the world and the rules to it, which was particularly egregious because Alice had shouldered the grief and burden of believing she had created a world that allowed suffering for centuries. She also explained that she had been maneuvering behind the scenes for hundreds of years to get the Awoken to this point, including causing her people to suffer and die as a means to an end. Alice refused to forgive her, but did agree to put all of her connections to work to help speed up Mara's departure, which was driven by her hatred and disdain for her. Many years later, Mara would lead the Awoken out of the Distributary to arrive in the Reef in the Sol system. They soon realized that they had become slightly magical, with Mara having the ability to communicate into the minds of the Awoken and regularly appearing into their dreams. Having been the one to lead them to this new world, the Awoken would later declare Mara to be the new queen of their people. Thank you for tuning in to today's episode of Lore to Go. If you liked this video, please like and subscribe. That's all for today though. Thank you all for joining me, and I'll see you next time.